Imagine a world 12,000 years ago, gripped by a sudden freezing ice age known as the Younger Dryas. For decades, we've been taught that the famous monumental stone circles of Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe simply materialized out of nowhere, an impossible leap forward in human capability. But deep in the Levant, nestled on the southern slopes of the Golan Heights, archaeologists have unearthed a prehistoric village that shatters this timeline completely. This is the story of a forgotten people who didn't just survive a climate apocalypse, they laid the structural, cultural, and technological foundations for civilization itself. And hidden among their ruins is a discovery so small, yet so monumental, it rewrites the history of the single most important invention of humankind. Long before the pharaohs built the pyramids, and millennia before the first seeds of organized agriculture were ever planted, a highly innovative culture known as the Natufians occupied a village called Nahal Ein Gev II. Located just 2 kilometers east of the Sea of Galilee, this 12,000-year-old settlement sat directly on the front lines of a shifting global climate. For nearly 40 years, the true scale of this site remained a secret, buried beneath layers of earth and trapped within a modern region of geopolitical conflict. Though a brief test excavation occurred in 1973, it wasn't until 2010 that archaeologists finally began to peel back the dirt. What they uncovered was not a temporary camp of primitive nomads, but a massive, complex, and permanent prehistoric settlement that completely predates the famous sites of southeastern Turkey. As the trenches widened, the architectural sophistication of the Natufians came into sharp focus. Digging teams exposed large, semi-subterranean round buildings, some measuring over 5 meters in diameter. These weren't flimsy huts made of brush and hides. They were robust structures built from a deliberate combination of heavy basalt and limestone blocks, meticulously stacked to form parallel outer walls. Even more astonishing was the interior design. The Natufians laid flat stones horizontally along the tops of the inner walls, creating built-in stone benches. If this layout sounds familiar, it's because it is nearly identical to the subterranean enclosures later found at Göbekli Tepe. The engineering blueprint for humanity's first monumental centers wasn't invented by the people of the pre-pottery Neolithic. It was inherited from the Natufians. But their mastery went far beyond raw stone cutting. In the ruins of Nahal Ein Gev II, experts made a startling chemical discovery: large quantities of exceptionally high-quality lime plaster. By analyzing the structural remains, archaeologists reconstructed the complex thermal sequence required to produce it, a process demanding immense fire control and precise temperatures to convert limestone into paste. Their quality of Natufian plaster was actually superior to versions produced thousands of years later. They used this material to smooth over their living spaces, creating a clean, durable aesthetic that defies our traditional view of the Stone Age. The Natufians were not merely survivalists and master builders, they were deeply expressive artists. Scattered throughout the settlement, researchers unearthed over 20 intact and broken art pieces, including beautifully engraved bone items and delicate jewelry. Among these treasures was a remarkable human face sculpted from a simple river pebble. The distinct artistic style of this small carving matches a signature cultural aesthetic that would later re-emerge in the monumental carvings of Karahan Tepe. Their sophistication also extended into a dedicated bead production industry. Using an array of raw materials, including marine seashells and specialized rocks sourced from a nearby geological outcrop, the Natufians crafted exquisite disc-shaped and cylindrical beads. This required precision drilling and immense patience, proving that these people dedicated significant time to personal adornment, identity, and trade. When they weren't creating art or manufacturing jewelry, the villagers of Nahal Ein Gev II were highly efficient hunters and gatherers. Animal remains preserved in the soil reveal a diverse and steady diet. While the bones of turtles and rabbits appear in small numbers, the vast majority of their meat came from young mountain gazelles, supplemented by water birds and fresh fish caught from the nearby water networks. But it is how the Natufians treated their dead that provides the most intimate look into their spiritual lives. The deceased were not cast away outside the village. They were buried directly beneath the floors of the homes. Underneath one structure, Building 5, archaeologists found a complex cemetery containing several bodies. In another area, beneath the foundations of Building 3, they discovered the grave of a woman. The physical evidence shows that the community actually dismantled a standing stone wall, carefully placed her body inside, wrapped in an organic shroud, and then meticulously rebuilt the masonry directly over her resting place. Even more hauntingly, inside a pit under Building 5, a young woman was completely sealed in a layer of pure lime plaster before 3 more bodies were placed on top. These structured, recurring rituals speak to a profound shamanic belief system where the living lived directly on top of the ancestors, maintaining an unbroken bond between the past and the present. Yet of all the monuments and burials at Nahal Ein Gev II, the most disruptive discovery is something so incredibly small that it could easily be mistaken for debris. Archaeologists recovered hundreds of tiny perforated, donut-shaped stones. For years their purpose remained a mystery. But a groundbreaking analysis utilizing advanced 3D methodologies and structural testing finally unlocked their secret. These stones were engineered to serve as spindle whorls, the weighted wheels to spin raw plant fibers into thread. To look at these objects is to look at the literal dawn of mechanical engineering. By securing these stone discs to a central rod or spindle stick, the Natufian successfully harnessed the mechanical principle of the wheel and axle. In popular culture, the invention of the wheel is almost universally tied to the heavy wooden carts of the Bronze Age, thousands of years later. But here, 12,000 years ago, we find the oldest known evidence of a rotational device in human history. By utilizing a simple spinning mechanism to convert raw materials into textiles, these people inadvertently laid down the physics for everything that followed. This core mechanical principle is the direct ancestor of the potter's wheel, the watermill, the gear, and eventually the engines and vehicles of the modern world. This discovery completely demolishes the persistent internet myth that civilization simply appeared out of thin air, or that a mythical lost civilization must have handed technology down to primitive humans. There is no missing chapter. The Natufians are that missing link. Long before the climate stabilized into the Holocene, long before large-scale agriculture forced people to domesticate crops, the foundational skills of human civilization were already forged in the harsh winters of the Younger Dryas. They had the stone architecture, the chemical plaster, the complex spirituality, the artistic expression, and yes, the mechanical wheels. When the ice finally retreated and the world warmed, humanity didn't learn how to build civilization from scratch. They simply upscaled the timeless innovations that had already been mastered at Nahal Ein Gev II.